Hello, my name is Brian. I'm a writer and I have over 25 books published on Amazon. Please like and subscribe to the video and the channel so I can get the word about it around to everyone else. Thank you. Chapter 24, Sins of the Flesh. Father Kyle walked in the front door of the church. He was still nervous about coming here, but he hoped that the aura from the Mass held earlier today might linger in the air to keep the creature in the basement at bay. He walked quickly past the basement door. No matter what, he could never truly relax while he was in this building. He burst into the kitchen expecting to find Philip. He paused in confusion for a moment and then looked out the back door. He sighed with relief when he found the young man on his knees and praying. Philip looked up in surprise. He rose and looked at Kyle uneasily. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "I'm feeling fine, if that's what you came to ask. As a matter of fact, that is why I came. You didn't look fine when I saw you laid out on the couch this morning." Philip grimaced and forced his memories from Mass out of his head. Kyle looked him over with concern. "You were about to tell me something this morning." "What was it?" he said. "No, I wasn't." "Yes, you said you didn't know what you saw." "No, I didn't." "I'm sure you did." "And I'm sure I didn't." Kyle sighed and pursed his lips. "This is the first time you tried to hide something from me. Why?" Philip growled audibly. "I don't know what you're talking about." Kyle settled down on one of the chairs and stared at the younger man in frustration. "I'm on your side, Brother Philip." "Don't call me that," Philip said irritably. Kyle raised an eyebrow and studied him. "Why not? Would you rather I called you father?" "Hell no," Philip barked. Philip gave him a challenging look. "You don't want me to call you brother, and you don't want me to call you father. What should I call you?" Philip shrugged and grunted. "I don't know." Philip began to pace up and down, and Kyle followed him with his eyes. "Now I know something happened," Kyle said. "What was it?" "Nothing happened," Philip replied, with his eyes staring into space. "You're a lousy liar." Philip grimaced and shrugged again. "That's a good thing, isn't it?" "Yes, it is. But something is bothering you." "There is nothing wrong," the young man said just a little too loudly. "You saw the demon," Father Kyle said. It was not a question. Philip stiffened and grimaced. "It's okay if you did," Kyle went on. "We've all seen it at some point." Philip sighed and hung his head. "Not like me." "What does that mean?" Kyle asked. Philip shook his head and waved his hands in a gesture like he was driving away a swarm of bees. "I don't even know if that thing is real," he said, and then stepped into the kitchen. "Sure you do. I've told you about it enough times. So has Mrs. Fitz. And her son. They told me what you did last Sunday. I didn't do anything. They said you drove the demon off like you were walking through a field of daisies." "That's not true," Philip said darkly. "I walked through a thick shadow. That's all I did." "And today the beast came to challenge you," Kyle said. Philip stiffened again and turned away. He went and stood against the counter with his eyes fixed on the cupboards. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. Kyle looked him over and sighed. That thing got to you, he said. Somehow. It got into your head and you're still trying to get it out. The young man shook his head adamantly and sniffed. You've been watching too many movies. This is not a movie, Brother Philip. I told you not to call me that, Philip shouted. Yes, you did, but I'm not going to stop. Philip scowled and hurried out of the room. Kyle followed him. They went right through to and out the front door. Philip stopped on the front porch and grimaced. Kyle placed a hand on his shoulder and Philip batted it away. Don't touch me, he barked. He went back inside and Kyle followed him again. He went towards the kitchen and stopped just inside the kitchen doorway. Kyle was right behind him. Why won't you tell me what you saw? Kyle insisted. Yes, priest, a booming voice pronounced. Why don't you tell him what you saw? The demon appeared in the hallway. Kyle screamed in terror and the beast seized him by the throat. Tell him, priest, the creature said with a snicker. Tell him how easily you fell for the sins of the flesh, the least of your God's sins, yet you fell for them, body and soul. No, Philip screamed angrily. No, I didn't. The demon laughed aloud and suddenly transformed into the image of the woman Philip had seen that morning. Despite her appearance as a petite woman, its strength was undiminished. It held Father Kyle against the wall as if its hand was made of iron. Kyle screamed again, and Philip saw the woman reach its other hand into the priest's mouth. Kyle kicked and flayed, but the demon started to pull something out of him. Its hand was wrapped tightly around a shimmering silver thing. It pulled relentlessly, and Kyle's essence was slowly ripped from inside him. Philip watched in fascinated horror. Father Kyle was still pinned to the wall, but the silvery glowing thing coming out of him was stretched and quivering against the manhandling. Philip saw Kyle's face on that glowing essence. The eyes were wide, and the mouth was opened in a screech of horror and fear. Come to me, priest, the beast said with its booming voice, through the image of the beautiful woman. No, Philip cried loudly. He grabbed the woman's arms and wrenched them down to her sides. Kyle fell to the floor with a heavy thud. His essence remained in the woman's grasp. The beast glared at Philip in outrage, but recoiled in fear when she could not break free from his grip. Release him now, spawn of Satan, Philip commanded. The silvery thing that shimmered and quivered like fine silk darted back into Kyle's mouth. The image of his face went with it. The elderly priest rolled onto his knees and retched on the floor. He was gasping for each breath he took. Back, Philip shouted at the woman. Back where you came from, foul beast, he shouted. The woman took a backward step and Philip advanced on her. She put a protective arm up in front of her face, and Philip swatted at it. Her entire body shivered, and then she was crawling on her knees. He stood over her with his hand, palm outward towards her. Back, unclean spirit! The woman became a black and red shadow. It faded until it was just a mist hovering over the floor. Then it flowed through the door and down to the basement. Philip helped Father Kyle get to his feet. Then he walked him outside. The old priest was still gasping for breath, But he looked at the younger man with new eyes. "I was right about you," he said. "I said you were touched, but I didn't quite know what that meant at the time. Now I know." "What do you mean?" Philip asked, more out of the urge to keep Kyle talking than to know the answer. "It's the Holy Spirit," Kyle said between mouthfuls of air. "You're touched, and that thing in the basement fears you. That can't be right. But it is. Why was it able to seduce me so easily? You're a man. You're weak and imperfect, like any man. But you have the spirit within you. Now you have to chase that thing out of here. You have to cast it out now before it recovers. How can I do that? You already have the answer. You'll have to say the prayer for consecrated ground. Most of the church is still on holy ground. That's why that thing can only come out of the basement sometimes. You have to sanctify the ground everywhere, especially the basement. But you need to cast the demon out. Use the prayer of St. Michael. It's the most powerful of prayers against evil spirits. You have to consecrate the ground and order the demon out. I can't do all that. I think you just proved that you can, Kyle said with a weak grin. Trust in yourself, Philip. Trust in God. I have to go, but before I do, there are some things you need to know. He spent several minutes giving him advice. He taught him some prayers that he would or might need. Then he hurried up the driveway as if the devil himself was on his heels. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.